Working. You're live now.
Okay, am I live?
Yes, yes. Sorry.
Okay. All right, welcome everybody. Sorry about that. This is George Miller Career Lab, which I go live on almost every week, and I am having internet issues, so it's been taking a little while to get going here. As I'm checking in, I want to see if the internet is even working and if this is even streaming. So I'm going to be checking my assistant moment to moment here to see if we are live. As we're getting started, there's a few ways that you can engage with me. I love it, of course, when you jump in directly on Zoom, and especially when the internet is not working so well, that I can engage with you directly. If if you're not able to jump in on Zoom, then you can always type your questions into the comment section. And I will do my best to work with you that way to answer your questions when you're typing your questions into the comment section. If I'm not on track with you, if I misinterpret your question, please let me know. Let me know how I'm doing in answering your questions. So what I want to talk about today is influencing. For anybody who's joining in, you can ask any questions that you want that are career related. You don't have to stay on the topic of emotional intelligence and influence and motivating people, building trust, that kind of thing. Your questions don't have to, you don't have to think about it in that framework. I will probably tie it back to something in emotional intelligence, but you don't need to. Um, you can ask any question that is on your heart, something about a relationship at work, relationship with your team, relationship with your boss, challenges that you're sorting through there. Or you can also ask about interviewing and resume. I end up helping a lot of people tighten up their resumes and feel confident in their interviews. So if you look at this, the art of influence, how to build trust, inspire, and motivate, you can tie that to even a resume and definitely to an interview. And certainly with interactions at work. So think about that, where you're at in your career, and what are the ways that you would like to inspire, motivate, and build trust? How do you want to influence more? And if you've joined in before, you know that I often talk about emotional intelligence. That's really understanding myself with my feelings. The more that I'm willing to feel discomfort, to feel the feelings of fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy, the more that I'm willing to feel those myself, the more I will be in touch with other people and what they're feeling. Because if I'm shutting that down in myself, then I am communicating to other people, don't open up to me that way. Don't communicate more of what you're feeling with me. So, a simple step in the art of influence is to begin with noticing what I'm feeling. Simply by doing that, I will be inviting more of that from other people, for them to share more. So, that is a really basic thing that we overlook a lot in life. One thing that people say to me is, George, it's like I'm learning the stuff that I wasn't taught by my parents or wasn't taught in school. So we learn all kinds of tasks technologies, etc., we often don't learn the basic things about emotional intelligence and social intelligence. So, any questions that you have about yourself and your career, go ahead and type those into the comment section or jump in directly here on Zoom, and I'd love to engage with you. I'd love to take your questions, answer questions, and sort through what you're working on in your career development. So I want to look at how I can influence more if I have a team. Uh, there's always challenges around completing a task while having everybody experience themselves as mattering and belonging and able to contribute. And I often find people don't really think that they think they have to learn a whole lot before they're going to be able to be an expert and say, okay, here's how we should do this. Oftentimes, asking questions is even more effective than having the right answers to things. And so if I'm willing to be with the discomfort of not knowing, I can still be of huge value to a team. And so I can influence and motivate a team by my way of being. It doesn't have to do with me knowing all of the right things. So think about that for a challenge that you've got going on right now, and see if there isn't a way that you would be able to allow yourself to be with the discomfort of not knowing something, and how you'd ask a question. How would your question influence and motivate other people? So I have one client who was a very smart guy and was managing a team, and he had never even gotten the feedback that he was micromanaging. He was working on something else. He was working on not freezing up in interviews and in C-level meetings. So he found that he had insecurities and he didn't see himself as an authority, etc. So he always tried to be perfect. So anyway, he got the assignment to make and celebrate mistakes. And so with his team, he started making mistakes. He started putting in some orders wrong. And pretty quickly, his team noticed this and was like, hey, you're not doing this right. You got to do it like this. And he would say, oh, thank you, thank you. And so he's just making these mistakes on purpose. But he said in 1 week, he found his team being more effective, more productive. And he was able to take his hands off. And people even started commenting to him like, yeah, it's nice that you're letting us do this stuff now. And he was like, George, I didn't even realize I was micromanaging. I didn't even realize how afraid I was to empower my team. And he's like, it's great. Like some of the things I was unsatisfied with at work, like I realize now I was the one creating the issues. When I empower my team, I set the expectation and let them do their job, things work better. But he wasn't aware of this. It was a blind spot in his leadership development. So often influencing and inspiring and motivating other people can be done, but in ways that we're not used to looking at it. So I'd love to throw out again, any questions that you have, any challenges that you are experiencing with your team, with your peers, with other colleagues, or challenges that you're having with your boss, where you would maybe be able to improve communication. So if you have any questions around that, type it into the chat. So I also mentioned emotional cues. To be able to pick up on others' emotions, I have to first know what I'm feeling. I have to first be able to identify when I'm feeling concerned, or if I'm feeling like I wasn't acknowledged, if I feel hurt, like, oh, I wasn't really understood in that interaction. If I don't know that I am feeling concerned or hurt about something, I'm not going to be able to see it in other people. And their behaviors are going to be mysterious to me. And I'm going to say things like, I think that other person just has some problems, or like, I don't know what's wrong with that person. But so, and it's going to kind of turn into blame. And then I might feel ashamed about how I can't quite get this right. And it ends up being this blame, shame, and justification of like, oh, this is just how it is here in this company, or that's just how that person is. And then things are inflexible. Things aren't going to change. But if I can be with the discomfort of my own feelings, of feeling afraid and hurt about something, and recognizing that, oh, wow, in that interaction with my colleague, I don't think they really understood where I was coming from. And ow, I feel some concern about that. And I wonder how often that's kind of happening in our meetings. And okay, now I'm acknowledging what I'm feeling, and that's going to give me insights into what they might be feeling, and to be able to be open to a more authentic conversation with said person. So that's another thing of learning how to pick up on emotional cues. It starts with me being more aware of what I'm feeling, being more curious about what I'm feeling, to consider that I jump to conclusions. Well, I've made it this far in life. I'm, doing pretty darn well. So why would I shift anything? Why would I look at myself differently? So a growth mindset, Carol Dweck's research on this, I mean, this is a core thing. And to have a growth mindset, part of the price that you pay in having a growth mindset is discomfort, is feeling more feelings, feeling more concern, feeling more anxiousness, feeling more sad about stuff that when things don't work, and feeling more joy, turning that up in life too. It all comes with it. So that's some of the foundational things. And I'm just gonna, I got off to a slow start with the internet today, so I'm gonna put out another call for questions. Any questions that you have, go ahead and type them into the comment section, or jump in here on Zoom. Any questions about your career path, your connections with people, how you communicate? How can you communicate more effectively in an interview? How do you communicate your experience, your story? How do you communicate that effectively? In reviews, you got a work review coming up. How do you communicate your accomplishments in the context of the company? So as I'm waiting a couple minutes for questions to come in, I'll share that you can take a personality assessment. That's a helpful tool. You can always take the assessment to learn a little bit more about yourself. And understand whether you're somebody who's more of a feeling oriented person or more of a thinking oriented person, whether you're more of a conflict avoidant person or somebody who is going to initiate conflict to drive results. And as you understand yourself more, just like with emotional intelligence, as you understand your personality style, you'll better be able to recognize the styles of other people, and most importantly, know how to shift the way that you engage, know how to shift your communication style so you can be more effective with others. So I'm sharing that in the chat. Go ahead and check that out. It's a quick assessment. 5-10 minutes, you'll finish it, and then there's a video. So, okay, I've got a question coming in here. I'll do my best to answer this question. Okay. So what to do? Let me see about this. This is great. So if I was put on a PIP, performance improvement plan, and I'm not concerned about meeting the goals of the personal improvement plan, but concerned that I'm having to beat myself and my boss. See, my boss did a part of my role that was recently added to me for 10 plus years. Oh, yeah. Okay. And then concern about approaching HR. Yeah. So I would definitely want more information on this, but I can speak to it a little bit. Um, if there are changes happening in the organization, and let's say that you come into a role where your boss or the person managing you on your team, if they did not train you in how to really handle that role, instead of, and I think you're spot on to be hesitant about going to HR about it, if you can look at it and say, okay, got it. So this is this is a way that my boss has some shortcomings. Well, if I take full responsibility for my position, did I, when I started this role, I could start to assume that, you know what, I saw signs of this. There was ways that my boss did not answer my questions, and I didn't drive hard enough for clarity around some of this stuff. So, okay, this relationship is 50-50, and I can own my part of the responsibility in it and say, you know what, I did not get the clarity I really thought I should. And my boss might be avoiding stuff in their role, and the best way I can serve them and my job is to keep asking questions and keep going for clarity, even if my boss kind of resents me in the short term for it. And because I can see where this happens. So as where I've done this before, it's like I'm juggling all these things, and I have a new employee that is coming to me saying, hey, I need you to sign off on this. I need this from you. I need this from you. And I kind of like push it away from them because I just don't want to think about it in that moment. and then they keep coming back and bugging me, but I could have a way of pushing them aside. And I have had employees who eventually then say something like, look, as I understand it, this is part of the responsibility of my job, and I need your sign off on this in order for me to move it forward. So what do I need to do to help you sign off on this? Is there something I'm missing? I thought it was these items over here. I thought I handled that. But I think I'm missing something here. And so then when I had an employee do that, then what I realized was, oh, you know what? Here's kind of a breakdown. And this is I've been avoiding making a decision on this. I need to get clarity from a couple clients, and I've been avoiding doing that. Okay, got it. But I can't really empower my employee to do the thing that they need to do and to do their job when I'm avoiding this stuff over here. Okay, got it. All right, I need to handle this. And so it was because my employee was bringing that stuff to my attention, and they, you know, they took some risk with me because I was kind of pushing them away, but it helped me get clarity about where I was not being as responsible as I needed to be in my role. So for that question about, you know, whether or not to take it to HR, like I'm not I am not going to say never take it to HR. Sometimes that is the thing to do. I mean, that's their job. Like they have they're there for a reason. But it's often way more effective for you to get some coaching and to look at how you can take more responsibility in your communications and how you can align better with your boss to get the outcomes that you need. Because if I keep going to HR when, you know, challenges come up, then I start signaling that I can't handle stuff. And again, you got to make the sort on this. Every instance is a different instance, and there are times where it's not your job and you do need to go to HR. But I'm saying that in my years of coaching, there are often ways that an individual could handle things on their own and actually develop themselves as a leader and have more influence in their communications. So let me know if you're listening in and how I'm doing at answering your question. It's a really, really good question. You know, was that helpful what I just shared, or wasn't it? And if not, then where am I missing you, and see if I can go in that direction. So let me know. And anybody who is joining in, if you have any questions or any way that you relate to this. So I want you thinking about that. Like, being put on a PIP, and what I don't understand is not concerned about meeting the goals of the PIP, but concerned that I'm having to beat myself and my boss. What's that in to beat yourself and the boss? I mean, that's what I'm curious about. So let me know if there's any questions. If you're listening to this and you've had times where you have been put on a performance plan, if you've been put on plan, one of the things that will happen in an organization is if they're going to do, if layoffs are kind of inevitable and they're downsizing or changing ownership or that kind of thing, they may look back on what the job expectations are, and they may say, okay, here are people who are not meeting some of these qualifications, and they may um that may be part of the strategy of letting go. So just curious, if you can share anything more about this. So if you're put on a PIP, what I've been curious about is um, not being concerned about meeting the goals, but concerned that I'm having to beat myself and my boss, and what that means.
Guessing you're talking to me.
Yes, yay. Hey, welcome. Are you able to share?
Yeah, I can share. So uh, I took over a product group that my boss had planned uh, for like a decade plus, when she was a individual member of our team and not manager. Um, and so it seems like there's a lot of intuition and knowledge that she's built up that I don't think she's quite let go of it, if that makes sense, or like let go of control, we'll
Yep.
say. Um, so I'm basically battling against 10 plus years of experience, still maintaining control, versus kind of letting me handle it on my own because I haven't absorbed 10 plus years of experience in a year-ish time. Surprising, I know. Um, so that's what I was trying to get at when I made the comment that I did, that I you know I have no problem with doing the other goals and the other stuff for the PIP, but if I'm not going to meet the standard of somebody who's done it for 10 plus years, then I'm it's going to be really challenging for me to try to beat that versus just improving myself and kind of beating those expectations, if it makes sense what I'm trying to get at.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that she's still kind of doing the job that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of times where there's kind of there's like intuition and stuff that's built up that has her jump on and respond to stuff before I potentially think about it. Now, there's not to say that there's not knowledge gaps and things I need to improve upon, but again, and I would also add that her, or my manager themselves admitted to me that this is one of the most complex areas that one can plan for within the company. So it's not like, again, would expect probably more than a year to kind of fully grasp the intuition, all the little nuances of it. And yeah, so she'll jump in, and then it's like, well, why didn't you know this? Or you should have answered or thought of that before. And it's like, well, I'm trying, but hard to beat somebody who did it for 10 plus years.
Got it. But I'm noticing the word beat, like you're supposed to do better than she, or like there. It's an interesting choice of words.
Yeah, it just feels like I'm kind of, I feel like I'm in competition with her almost, in a sense, when it really shouldn't be that way. When it should be like, I'm trying to self improve myself, self correct some things that she's presented. But then it feels like, I'm also having to overcome this hurdle of doing this part of my role while my boss is also doing it at the same time, but then comes back and says, why aren't you doing it? If that all makes sense, I'm trying to think of a as best a way I can to
Got it.
explain it all.
Got it. I'm going off camera because my internet connection's all messed up. So I'm trying to reserve bandwidth here.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I got the so um and what's the in the PIP, what was the main thing that you were told in that?
Yeah, I
What's
think
your
the main
main
thing.
objective?
Yeah. I think one of the main objectives is kind of achieve more independence, where I'm not supposed to rely on her as much for whatever. which was to some aspects understandable. Um, but there's also this big chunk again of me just taking on this new product role where, hard to again kind of be more independent, take more responsibility when I feel like I'm battling between her and myself for, taking that initiative responsibility or initiative action on stuff in respect to at least this kind of product group I work with.
Got it. And why would you think to go to HR?
I just like I would hate to be fired because I basically couldn't beat out my boss for my current role, in essence. Um, I mean, I know, you know, um, I mean, ultimately, from what I can understand of the PIP, it's basically all in her hands. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I could do everything right anyway, and she could still nitpick enough to find a reason to terminate me. Um, but my initial thought would be to go there and kind of explain the situation and see if I don't know there might be like some recourse or I don't know. It was just something that popped in my head to maybe see if
Got it.
maybe I'm just thinking crazy or go ahead. Sorry.
What's your what's your sense of of your boss in terms of like, so you usually what I find is that we all have authority issues, meaning that we kind of like make stuff up
Second,
about
you're breaking up a bit. Let me move to a better location.
okay. What I find is that we usually have authority issues with people, and how that shows up is like I kind of assume that the person, my boss, isn't going to be understanding of me, and that I'm going to have to work around them. And I don't know, I think I need a little more information to really go here, but do you know what I mean when I'm talking about this?
Yeah, I mean, well, I can add more color. So I know I have another planner that I work closely with because she kind of covers similar ground. And I guess, excuse me, she was talking with my manager one day, and I guess, there were a couple phrases that I found interesting slash alarming that she was talking about how, excuse me, she apparently, well, and then the factor is she's going to be retiring, or my manager is going to be retiring at the end of the year, as well, just as kind of another color point. But apparently, before all this, she feels she needs to apparently quote whip us into shape and also leave a strong legacy before she retires. So I think that is potentially kind of playing into all of this. That she
Oh
feels
yeah.
she. So I don't know if that helps color the situation any better.
Okay, and do you can you guess what her personality style is?
Can you remind me of the?
There's cooperator, analyzer, regulator, and energizer, and you are an analyzer regulator, if I recall.
Yeah, I think she would. Um, I definitely think at least part of it would be analyzer. The other part, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But again, this is a
So,
rough guesstimate.
so what might work, you're on a PIP. They know that they have to have this handled. And for you to say, okay, here's what my strategy is for this. I understand that I need to be demonstrating parts of this. I need to be demonstrating that I have this handled, that I have this role handled. So I am going to take the initiative and handle these things, and I'm going to come to you with questions when I really don't know what the answer is. And then I'm going to ask for some background on how that came to be, that this is the way that this is done, so that I know I'm in really good shape on handling this role. Have you had any kind of conversation like that with them?
We have, but it seems like, the impression is I'm supposed to be completely good to go with this product group after a year of training, basically. And honestly, I'm afraid to ask questions because I've kind of asked some clarifications and then get the feeling like, oh well, you're supposed to know that already. Um, so it so I've been trying to kind of be more aggressive, I guess, in the sense, or maybe assertive. But it just seems like there's kind of like questioning my moves. You know, are you sure you really want to do that? Like, you get what I'm getting at. Um, so
Well, if I'm gonna imagine, I'll imagine that we've got somebody who has created a lot of meaning for themselves in their role, and they are approaching retirement,
yeah, yeah,
and they have all kinds of feelings about that,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
and losing their sense of purpose. Um, looking at losing their sense of purpose, and they're
yeah,
very good at
yeah,
what they do, and they perhaps are unconsciously resenting, you know, younger people coming in and doing the role, and they, have a chip on their shoulder about it.
yeah. No, yeah. I think you're kind of really hitting the nail on the head. For what I imagine is, kind of, it makes perfect sense when I think about how they've been reacting and what you're describing. It lines up pretty darn well.
So, for you then to be like, this may be an area where you would want to, in an overall gentle way, but to lean into a little more conflict with your boss,
Hmm.
and understand that they may be a cantankerous old pain in the butt,
Hmm.
and that you're just going to get the training that you need regardless of them being a real pill,
Yeah, yeah,
and that they may complain about you and etc. And you may even say, like, you might choose to say some things like, you know it's like I can't do it right. Like, if I take the lead on something, then I'm doing it wrong, and if I ask a question, then I'm wrong for not having already known. you get
yeah.
you get the bind I'm in here.
No, yeah, no, yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of like getting close to that point where I'm just sort of be like, you want me to be independent, but you're watching my every move and commenting on it. Um, how am I supposed to achieve independence? And then, kind of along the other
Well,
side.
Well, that piece right there, though, you actually can do something with. I'm not saying it's fun,
Yeah, yeah,
but if they're watching your every move and commenting on every little bit that goes with it, like I understand that sucks.
yeah,
Like it's certainly not how I want something to be done, but um like this may be a time where you just have to dig deep into yourself and understand that a lot of the frustration that you're having with them in this moment um has more to do with your past relationships and ways that you were annoyed growing up with your parents. Because if even if your boss is giving you instructions and they're not doing it the most helpful way, um like you may just have to work with that. Do you know what I'm saying?
no, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, no, I think probably the better path, at least what I probably need to just kind of bring to the forefront is what what you were kind of role playing previously, where it's like, I'm doing this and it's wrong. You know, I take initiative on this and then it's wrong. You know, kind of like, bring to her attention, you know, that kind of scenario that they're putting me in, gently or as gently as I can. Um, and while kind of just, what I've been doing now, which is trying to work within the boundaries of what I'm given and, taking feedback, making note of it, trying not to make the same mistake twice, of course. And just kind of keep trudging through that way, even though, like you said, it sucks. And when I mean like watching them every move, I mean like literally watching my team's status.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Watching your team status you're using Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, so like, keeping track of how much time I'm green and yellow. Even she even, took access to my calendar so she can see specifically like, I have a meeting, with my plant contacts about this on this date. I have a meeting with quality folks
Yeah.
on this date and time kind of deal. Unfortunately she's gone down, or they've gone down that path.
Got it. Okay. You know what might be um helpful here is for you to over communicate.
I tried that and then I got pushback on that.
Okay. How so?
Basically I'm not, she mentioned, well, you're the one who, I hear from you the most. And, I'm really not supposed to be reaching out to her unless it's something absolutely urgent.
Got it. But when you reach out to her, um, you can do it in a way that what I mean is just sort of like okay, I'm going here now. Like because she's obviously got a lot of anxiety about, you doing the job well.
Mhm.
And so when you communicate, it's not asking her questions, and it's not it, but it's just okay, here's where I'm at, this is what I'm doing, here's a status update, status update, status update. Do you know what I mean by that? Like
Yeah, I get what yeah. And I mean,
you're not
even then, go ahead.
okay. So
Sorry.
even then what happens?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I tried not to do too many questions. It was more of kind of just like trying to like poke her brain to be like, I'm leaning along this path. What do you think? Um, kind of having basically and not necessarily even like basic stuff, but like I'm thinking about this, or I have, I know Plant said this, I have concerns about that. Trying not, trying to bring forth what I thought would be relevant stuff to her to kind of demonstrate that I understand the knowledge, and I'm clearly working on it. I'm just trying to get maybe the extra clarification because, I want to make sure I'm taking the right actions. Um, to do the right things, kind of per the PIP. And, maybe not quite like a status update per se. But even then, I don't know. Again, the impression I got from the latest feedback was, basically keep communications to her minimum, unless it's something urgent or something that needs escalation. So I get what you're saying with the status update. I'm afraid it would backfire on me.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, I've got a session coming in now, so I need to jump. I don't know if this was helpful or not to you, but it it is, you're I certainly get the challenge, but I don't know
Yeah.
that we really got to a clear next step.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely, I think at least helped me indicate that I don't think going to, saying anything to HR is going to be worth my time. I think better to try to maneuver with what I have going on currently and stay that course and then look for, kind of keep my ears to the ground, basically.
Okay.
Kind of hope for the best, prepare for the worst, basically. Because like I said, there's no recourse from what I can tell. It's basically all in her hands.
Yeah. The thing for you to look at is how it's been a year and how you didn't use the relationship better. Even if they're a pain in the butt.
Yeah, and I know, and it's not really, and I would also add, it's not just in me that, she's had different.
No. I guarantee you that your boss is a pain for a lot of people.
Yeah, but
And
no,
the your part in it, learning how to work with an asshole is
yeah,
is a very valuable skill.
yeah, and unfortunately, I've had, frankly, really good luck with managers really up to this point. So I guess, I had to learn eventually, to say that I was going to run into this situation sooner rather, or at least sometime. So
And so digging in that and how you do it now, this is definitely a lesson to learn. So okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
let's stay in touch about it. I want to hear more, and um set up a time with me if you need.
yeah, for sure. No, definitely appreciate jumping on and you giving me some insight. I think kind of helped give me some clarity and guidance for sure.
Okay. All right, well, take care, and I got to sign off, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Sorry about the internet issues, and I will be back in a couple weeks. Take care.
All right, thank you.